thank you for your care, for your patience, and for your deliberateness during this trial. International law expert Ramsey Clark testified that international law applies here in DeWitt. He testified that drone attacks are illegal. He testified that the law obligates us to obstruct war crimes and violations of international law. He testified that international law obligates us to get our government to obey international law. Everything we did on April 22nd was in direct compliance with international law, the supreme law of the land. Mr. Clark also testified that the judge is required by law to decide if our acts were in compliance with international law or not. And the judge has the power to uphold that international law. The only guidance that Mr. Clark offered the judge is that the means of stopping the crime must be less damaging than the crime being stopped. And Your Honor, when the Grady's were busy trying to stop the Vietnam War, I was busy joining the Vietnam War. I went down, I volunteered for the Army, I volunteered to be a paratrooper, I volunteered for Vietnam. I served in the infantry as a paratrooper in Vietnam, Japan, Korea, Alaska. After we invaded Grenada, I went down to investigate Grenada. I also spent time in the Gaza Strip. My experience in war has taught me, among other things, two important lessons. One is the critical importance of international and humanitarian law in stopping the most heinous and inhuman crimes. And the other is the amazing ability of a system to convince good people to not comply with international humanitarian law. I have to live the rest of my life knowing that when the opportunity was there for me to uphold international law, I failed that test. I live with this. I am driven by my memories from the past. And it is my intent to never, ever make the mistake, never let fear of those above me, fears of social pressures, fears of professional pressure, to keep me from doing the little piece I can to get my country to comply with international law. A law which is so basic that much of it is customary law. Let me be clear about the long-term delayed cost of not complying with international humanitarian law. Night after night at 4 a.m. in the morning, I hear that scream in my ear. There is that image. The squads hit the dirt, and through the opening in the brush, you can see a figure moving. Over your sights, you see it's a woman. You see she's carrying a baby. You think, should I open up on her? After all, the orders are that everybody here, this is a free fire zone, everybody here is considered enemy. But she's a woman, a child. Could she be a threat? She could be a weapons carrier. She could be growing rice for Vietnam. She could be a scout for an ambush. You told awake, and you know you were following the wrong set of laws. You should, instead of asking, could she be a courier? You should have asked, by what right do we have to demand to force people to leave their land under the threat of law, a threat of death? By what right? Instead of asking, for example, was she growing rice for the Viet Cong? I should have asked my command, By what right do I have a U.S. soldier to be lying wait in her fields? If I had asked the right questions, if I had followed the right law, only our imagination can say how many innocent lives would have been saved. That was an opportunity to support, to comply with international humanitarian law. I failed that test. These opportunities come, we are tested. Even judges occasionally get tested. And they, like me, will face the pressure of the system, the social pressure, the political pressure, the professional pressure, to make it hard to comply with international humanitarian law. But in the balance hangs lives of hundreds or thousands of people. In summary, all defendants say they were trying to prevent heinous war crimes by alerting airmen that they were being asked to commit punishable war crimes, by petitioning their government to obey the law, international law, the law, and fulfilling our personal obligation under international humanitarian law to enforce these rules. And for all these reasons, Your Honor, I believe we should find the defendants not guilty. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Elizabeth L. Adams, do you wish to make a closing statement?
No.